Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight, I wanted to discuss two different stories that they're not connected, but in some ways they are connected. Um, They actually have two different dates, but it's like one happened the day after the other. But I just so happened to find out about both incidences on the same day. I'm like, wow, ain't this a coincidence? I got a friend who often says to me, like, Mark, I don't believe in coincidences. There are simply coincidences, things that seem to happen together, seem to happen that one thing happens and then another thing happens. They just happen to coincide, right? So what am I talking about here? Um, for those of you who followed this blog or this YouTube channel for at least a couple of months, I'm quite sure you're familiar with this whole discussion of an unorganized group of mostly African American tourists traveling to various countries around the world. They're known as the Passport Bros, right? So, back, I think it was sometime in late January, early February, where one particular young Black male traveler had became the focus of some news that was coming out of Brazil. So, as this is something that relationships, between men and women in Brazil is something that I've been, I've been breaking it down for a number of years, going back to the years that I've been on the blog. And, whether, people know it or not, African Americans do have a history in Brazil. That's something that I want to explore more in the future, because it's not just recently that the idea of African Americans traveling to Brazil has come up. There's some intriguing stories that have come out, particularly dating back to the 1930s, that I want to tackle one day soon, hopefully, because I think it's great context considering all of this commotion people are making about, wanting to travel to Brazil, get to know the country. People are talking about just mingling with the women, whatever that means. Obviously there's men who are interested in long-term relationships. There's men who are just, looking for some fun. And so, this idea of Black Americans traveling to Brazil, discovering Brazil, being intrigued by the country, it's nothing new. It's, like I said, it's going on 100 years since one of the first big, interactions between African Americans and Brazil, started coming out. Real intriguing story. Like I said, I want to get into that, but let me stay focused on what I'm talking about today. So late January, early February, his brother named Auston Hollemon, he started making some headlines. My cell phone was blowing up one particular morning. I think again in the January, early February, with it just looked like the young man was in hot water. He had been hanging out in Brazil for some time, and some people came for him, just making all sorts of accusations about his behavior in the country. And after I sorted through all the details, I says, well, I definitely have to talk about this, because if the video that I put out, around that time, I just had to explain that I felt that everybody in this scenario had some things right. They had some things wrong. When I looked at how Mr. Hollemon was carrying himself, I'm like, okay, he made some mistakes there. And, I mentioned, I said, I made a couple of videos about it, specifically about him, some of the things that I think went wrong. Some of the misconceptions that people have about Brazilian women, what the atmosphere is in terms of dating Brazilian women these days, and as I've been traveling and I lived in the country for so long, these are things that I feel comfortable speaking about. But in reality, after that thing went down and, basically Auston Hollemon felt the need to jet. He he bounced. He felt like the heat was getting a little bit too much. I don't know if he felt that his life was in danger. I remember him writing a video like he felt like Brazilian feminists were trying to get him deleted. So, he jumped the plane and he left. Um, I have to say that considering the circumstances, I have to say, I was really impressed with the way he handled it. He packed up, he left, he kept it moving. From what I've seen, I haven't followed a lot of his videos. There's too much content on YouTube to watch to be able to check out everybody, but I know he kept it moving. Being so young, I admire that he's able to just, hey, okay, fine. I'm not wanted here anymore. I'll go somewhere else, which is, that's kind of cool. Like I said, I admire that he was able to keep himself together and just keep it moving. I see he's exploring in Asia now. Again, I haven't really kept up with what he's got going on. From the last I saw, I think he was in either Vietnam or Thailand by now. So, definitely shout out to that brother. He after I made my video, one of my contacts had actually been in contact with Auston for a minute, just advising him on the do's and don'ts in Brazil. And I think my video had been up for maybe a month and a half or so. And, Mr. Hollemon actually sent me a message via YouTube, just thanking me for the video that I created, because, I wasn't out to try to crucify him. Because I felt like, as I said, I think all of the parties that were, weighing in on that whole situation had things right and had things wrong. So to tell you the truth, I wasn't really planning on, even though I had already written another article about the situation, I put it in the can. I just put it in the archives, and I said, I'm not going to even post it. I'm going to just, let this situation just fly away and it'll be done. But that's not how it's turning out. Recently, I've come across some more information that I'm going to have to share. Hopefully, after I get done with this video, I can get into that one, because this ordeal with Auston Hollemon is clearly not over. Like I said, I don't want to spoil that right now. I'm going to get into that probably in the next video. But I'm finding myself having to revisit this situation. As I said, two situations came up one day and then the next day, and I found out about both of those situations in the same day. So I'm like, wow, this is intriguing. So I could definitely got to do a video about this. So Hollemon recently posted a video on his channel where he talked about he does not want to be associated with the term passport bros anymore, right? Now, that's something that I've spoken about before, because I've said that, and there's other people who comment on my video channel, and they say the same thing. When we're speaking about specifically African-American males, it's wrong to put everybody in the same box, because you do have African-American males who are traveling to not only Brazil, but Dominican Republic and other countries in search of sexual relations, whether they're paying for it or whatever. I knew this years ago, because some of the videos that I saw coming out, some of the documentaries, if you just listen to some of the things that guys were saying, it's like, okay, these guys are looking for, quick sex, right? There's other guys who travel to other countries realistically in search of, the right woman. The situation between American men and American women is such that a lot of men have just checked out, says, okay, I'll find a wife in another country. So those are two type of travelers who are going to Brazil. But then you have a third, men who end up traveling to Brazil, end up staying for a little while. They didn't have intention of they didn't have it wasn't their goal to go to Brazil just specifically to meet a woman. They would just happen to, either they travel to Brazil on, just for extended periods, short periods. Some people end up going over there on business, work related. They end up staying there. So obviously living in Brazil, you're going to meet people, whether they're males or females. And some people not having the intention of necessarily meeting women, you're going to meet women anyway. And sometimes it just happens that way. And, you never intended on, even getting involved with, Brazilian women, but it turned out that way. So this is why there's a problem when everybody just jumbles all of these men into one category, because it gives people, if one type of guy starts behaving in a way that's, we can't say is, representative of the best type of Americans that exist, then that's going to, give everybody a bad reputation, whether they're their own business or they're just tourists, or they are actually looking for, what we'll call the one. So I can definitely understand how Mr. Hollemon would say, well, I don't want to be associated with that because that term has taken on a whole different meaning, from probably what he thought when he first heard the term. He made it clear that he did not create the term, but as he got popular on YouTube, people started associating his name with it, like he was the leader of the whole, again, this unorganized group of African Americans traveling to Brazil. So I watched I watched a little bit of his video. I guess it's about an hour and something long. I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched maybe the first few minutes. And just, to give some context to this, I wanted to share just a little bit of his video before I move into the story that I want to discuss today. So this is taken from a recent video by Auston Hollemon. So let's check this out real quick.
Now, why do I decide to, we got 272 people here already. Why do I decide to disassociate myself from the passport rules? And I got surprised for y'all when I get back to Thailand, which I'll be in Thailand like very, very soon. Groups are responsible for each other's actions and nobody can control anybody. Why? What do I mean by that? Make sure y'all give the live stream a like if you're not already. But why do I say that everybody, Passport Bros is kind of like it's a football team, right? If one person is playing wrong, the whole team looks bad. Okay, let me turn off the chat. So if one person is playing wrong, the whole team looks bad. And the leader, which I never claimed to be, but the so-called leader or the football coach, if the team loses, that falls on him because he's the leader. And I say that because you got some dudes in the DR and people that are trying to become content creators in Pattaya and these other sex worker hotspots of the world, and they're getting online and they are filming. And I've said this before, a lot of these dudes are promoting sex workers and telling you that they're regular women. And a lot of y'all are being fooled. Seriously. A lot of y'all are being fooled. Y'all think that these dudes got these fit, feminine, submissive women, and they're paying for them. And it kind of makes it hard whenever you got American women or other critics that come through and say that we're going over here paying for sex workers. When, to be honest, there's a few of y'all that are claiming Passport Bros, and I did not start Passport Bros. Let me make sure that's clear. There are a few of y'all that are claiming Passport Bros that are going overseas strictly just to pay. And hey, that's fine. You can do that. But I'm not doing that. And actually, back in January, Zoda Barber told me something. He said that he doesn't claim that because, and I knew this made sense when he said it, because it lumps everybody all in one thing. It lumps everybody so if he does something or if I do something, we all get thrown in the same umbrella. And there's a lot of stuff that you guys are doing that I don't even think about doing. There's a lot of clowns joining and claiming the whole Passport Bro label, and they're doing clown shit. They have no home training when they go overseas. A lot of y'all have no home training at all. And y'all go to these other countries and you're going to end up getting killed, acting a fool, thinking you can talk shit about the people, thinking that you can be aggressive with people in areas that you really don't know where you at. The governments are run completely different in most countries, especially over here in Asia, especially here in Asia. In South and Central America, those are democracies just like America. They might be corrupt, but they're still democracies. But here in Asia, you have monarchies. They're constitutional monarchies, from my understanding, but that's still a monarchy. You have communism. And yeah, no, that's not flying in those societies. A lot of the ways y'all behave is not flying that way. And believe it or not, I may talk a lot. I may say a lot of crazy stuff when I'm responding to people. I don't just talk like that all the time. Anybody that knows me personally knows I just don't sit around and just. I'm talking about something that happened in particular. If you hear me badmouthing somebody, I just know how to act. Let's just say that I know how to act overseas. But I do not promote sex work. And if you think I do, go find a video where I told you guys to go somewhere and pay for sex. Go find a video of me saying that. But there's a large number of dudes that promote it. And even when I tell dudes, hey, don't go over there and pay for sex, I've told, I can find it myself. I don't feel like looking for it, but I can find it. I've told dudes several times, don't go pay for sex workers overseas and enjoy regular women. And you can't complain about women in the States and then just go pay for sex. You need to actually enjoy that experience that you may not be experiencing back home. That's what I did. The stuff that I brag about when I was dating overseas is stuff that wasn't that easily attainable in the States. The experience that I couldn't really get that easy in the States. But my solution wasn't to go over there and pay, but do what you want. I don't give a damn. I really don't care what you do. But it's just whenever they lump me in that same umbrella, I'm not going with that. I don't sleep with sex workers. I really don't. Guys, if that was the case, I went to the Philippines. I didn't sleep with anybody. That Vietnam, no. I can go without. I don't want to pay. I really don't. I don't like to.
So anyway, so that's what he had to say about the whole scenario. He's, this is something that, I made reference to this in one of my videos. Like, I don't want anybody associated. I have been going to Brazil since the year 2000. I was going to Brazil long before there was this idea of passport bros, and looking at the name that's associated with a certain segment of African-American tourists. That's not a term I want to be associated with, because it was never my intention to travel to Brazil. Definitely not for sex tourism. It wasn't even an idea that I was going to Brazil to meet a woman. I'm somebody who's very curious about the situation of African descendants around the world. And when I discovered Brazil, I just became fascinated. I started reading all the books I could get. I got into the music. I started learning Portuguese. And again, I fit myself in that category where I'm visiting this country every year, sometimes twice a year. Ended up moving there for 9 years. And, in just interacting with people, I came across a lot of women, a lot of men, a lot of good people that I met while I was in Brazil, right? So I could definitely identify with where he's coming from. But it's funny to me because he made this announcement like one day before this strange story came out of Bahia. And, when people started, making accusations that he was promoting sexual tourism in Brazil, he was actually in Salvador Bahia. Salvador Bahia is one of those mystical places where you see these books that says, 100 places in the world you need to travel before you die, 100 songs or albums you need to hear before you die. Well, for Black people who have an interest in the African diaspora, Salvador Bahia is definitely one of those places you want to visit before you leave this planet. Just mystical, magical, historical, it's everything to fall in love with this place. It's a majority Black city. And African culture the city is just drowned in African culture, from the food to the music, the way people talk, I can't remember. It was a video that I did a couple of weeks ago where it was just a question of, what would Brazilian Carnival be without the African descendant there? Because, it started off as a European inspired party, but then Black people got involved in it, and it's completely different from how it would probably be had there not been this African influence. So, and that would be the question. Brazil would not be Brazil without its black population. And you definitely feel that in a place like Salvador Bahia. Again, I'm I'm not a tourist agent or anything, but I'm just saying most people are familiar with Brazil through Rio de Janeiro. But if you want the experience of the African diaspora, and Rio definitely has that. So Rio de Janeiro had a huge slave port. It's a museum there. You can go and check that out. Viola Davis went there in promotion of that last film that she did. What was it, the Woman King or whatever? She chose Brazil to go and promote it. You can get that African experience in Rio too, but to me, you get it even more in a place like Salvador Bahia. So that's definitely a plug for you to get your passport and check out Salvador Bahia. And when I say get your passport, this has nothing to do with go down there and check out some of the women. I'm saying go and learn about what happened to Black people in Brazil. How did they turn out versus how your experience from wherever country you come from. So Hollemon, if I'm not mistaken, let me check this out. Hollemon actually posted his video you see here on March 22nd, March 27th, I'm sorry, March 27th, 2023, which was just, well, now that this is past midnight, it's actually April 1st now. So this was 3-4 days ago that he posted his video. So keep that in mind. March 27th, he posted a video entitled, "I am disassociating myself from the label Passport Bros. Here's why." So then another story broke. Let me see here. Another story broke on March 29th. The story actually took place on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's what it says here. An American 29 years old, a software engineer, was arrested on Wednesday, the 29th in the Rio Vermelho district in Salvador Bahia. So this story happened on the 28th, and the press got a hold of it on the 29th, right? Here's another headline. This is from Global News, which is, G1 is their news network. And so it's reporting the same story, that this American tourist who had been living in Salvador Bahia for almost a year, he got caught up in something. So let's talk about this story, because I just think that it's intriguing that Auston Hollemon disassociated himself from Passport Bros on the 27th, and then the 28th, this story about this Black American getting into some kind of trouble, it became a hot topic in Brazil. So let's talk about this story. Black American software engineer arrested in Brazil for lewd behavior and not paying a call girl for her services. Okay. So this is the guy getting arrested here. So let me just go through and talk about what happened here. On the 29th, earlier this week, it was reported that an American man who would later be identified as 29-year-old Zachary Maudie Mikaya was the center of a rather bizarre, disturbing incident that took place in Bahia State's capital city of Salvador. Mikaya, a native of Pennsylvania, is a software engineer who has been working home office and living in Salvador for close to a year, taking up residence in a luxury building in the Rio Vermelho region of the city. So the first thing that catches my eye here is that this guy's been here almost a year. Well, he's been in Salvador for almost a year, and he's a software engineer. So, it strikes me that this guy's probably making pretty decent money. You multiply that by the fact that the Brazilian real is still giving 5 reais more. I think it's like 520, 525 the last I saw it last week. 525, 5 Brazilian reais and 20 cents or centavos for $1 American dollar. So on top of the fact that he probably earns a lot of money, to work in home office as a software engineer, his money is multiplied 5 times by living in Brazil. That's the first thing that I have to speak on. Brazil has always been a great bang for the buck for the last few years. When I first started going to Brazil, $1 American dollar was worth one real and 86 cents. So it wasn't quite, it wasn't giving me the same. When I first started going there, but I saw this value of the dollar going up in Brazil every year. And it's been hovering over the 5 real mark for, I want to say 3-4 years now, if not more. Anyway, it was reported that Mikaya also had a female companion, a Brazilian woman. Anyway, on the 28th, the American man apparently bought the services of a local garota de programa, which means call girl. But for some reason, he chose not to pay the woman. Like, you making this type of money and you don't want to pay for her services, right? Okay. This prompted the call girl to report the situation to local police. According to police, Micaiah was in Salvador on a tourist visa, which is actually due to expire in the coming week on April 4th. What is that? I think that's Tuesday, actually. So here's the picture of local military police leading him to the squad car. The charges for the services rendered by the call girl came to the amount of 1,000 Brazilian reais, which is currently worth less than 200 American dollars. Upon hearing the details, military police were led to the apartment where the situation went down. It appears that the man was under the influence of drugs, which possibly led to his assault on his female companion after she let the officers into the apartment. Now, I'm kind of confused about this. It seemed like one story said that his female companion, he assaulted his female companion who he was with, while it seems that other reports said that he assaulted the call girl who brought the police to the apartment. Not sure. Either way, he assaulted one of these two women. The officers quickly subdued the man. There were large quantities of LSD and cocaine found in the location. Upon entry of the police, the American then he attempted to grab the gun of one of the officers who entered the apartment. Making matters worse, when police asked the man to get dressed, I mean, when they walked in, he was in his underwear. You know, when the police asked him to get dressed so they could take him to the police station, he not only refused, but he actually pulled his wang out and started whacking it off right in front of the officers. What's up with this dude? So when he was then apprehended, he was taken to the police department for repression of robbery and theft located in the Baixa do Fiscal region of the city. Civil police revealed that he would be charged with the crimes of resistance, disobedience, obscene act, drug use, and sexual violation. The man shall await a hearing while he's in custody. Well, he'll be in custody awaiting a hearing. After being immobilized, the man was arrested. He was sent, arrested for the act. And again, he was sent to, the police department for repression of robbery and theft. I just read that already. So let me just speak on this for a minute, because I thought it was that's kind of crazy that Auston Hollemon made a video saying he doesn't want to be associated with the label Passport Bros, like one day before this incident went down, where there's another African-American also in Salvador Bahia, and he gets busted for purchasing the services of a local call girl. So this is what I'm talking about. It's like, this is an incredible coincidence, or coincidence, if you will. Auston Hollemon, who got into a bit of, some hot water because of accusations of some of his what the people believe that he was promoting sexual tourism. So he doesn't want to be associated with that, because he's hearing stories of what some other Americans are doing in other countries, whether it's Dominican Republic or Brazil or any other country. And he doesn't want his name associated with that label. And then the next day, you get another, apparently an African-American, also in Salvador Bahia, which is where Hollemon was when he was recording his videos in the streets with local girls in the city. This guy's in the exact same city, and he pulls something like this. It's just, dang, people will get a hold of this story and they'll be like, see that? We told y'all what type of passport bros, what type of people they are. When I first read the story, I was just kind of intrigued. I'm like, you hear that someone is an engineer of some sort, he's a software engineer. You don't associate. It didn't pop in my mind. Like, when you think of somebody who has a certain type of education, he's an engineer of some sort, you would think that his behavior would match the type of position that he has. But obviously that's not true. I can't really speak on, what maybe it was the drugs that they said they found him with LSD and cocaine. Maybe he was under the influence of drugs when he started behaving this way. But this is definitely not a story that will give any credibility to anybody who wants to be associated with the term passport bro. As I said, I never had any problems in Brazil because I don't go places, purchasing sexual services. I don't go around trying to disrespect people. I don't disrespect people in my own country, let alone going to another country. So I just thought this was a little bit strange. Like, ain't this something that Hollemon just disassociated himself from that term? And then you got somebody the very next day who's showing why Auston Hollemon doesn't want to be associated with that term anymore. So I just wanted to share that story because I thought it was crazy how one thing, not led to another, but one guy's comments not wanting to be associated with, and then you get a story showing exactly why he wouldn't want to be associated with the term. I thought that was crazy. So, as I said, I'm quite sure Auston Hollemon knows that, this whole scenario and the accusations, this thing is not blowing over anytime soon. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, hopefully, in my next video, because this gets kind of deep. It makes me question. I want to look at everybody's side. I want to know how everybody sees the situation involving not only Auston Hollemon, but also other men's groups who are coming to Brazil in search of, companionship with the local women there. There's a lot to be said. So I'm going to get into that in another video. But for now, I'm going to close this video. Just wonder what you thought about this. I just, like, what are people going to say when this story hits if it ever does hit the American press? I see that we told you about these Pookie and Ray Rays going down to Brazil, and I've never denied that. There's all types of men who go to Brazil. Some of them, are well behaved. Some of them are not. Some of them are tricking. Some of them are just having a good time. Some are actually looking for, a long-term relationship. You have all types going there. I've never denied that, but this is just not a good look right here. Anyway, so I'm going to end this video here. Ask you to, give me a thumbs up for this video, drop a comment. Curious to know what you're thinking after hearing such a crazy story. Consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell so that you know when my next video is going to be coming up. It's never enough stuff to talk about, right? So I'm going to end the video here and hope you guys come back to the channel when my next video goes up.